Welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast, presented by RacerX, the podcast for moto industry professionals, entrepreneurs, and riders. If you want to grow your brand and business in today's digital-first world, you have to know how to turn a stranger into a fan, turn a like into a customer. You have to know how to turn attention into dollars. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you in the know on real marketing tactics that work in the moto world so that you grow your business and help grow the sport. Get ready to learn from the very same marketing experts trusted by RacerX, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, GNCC, and NBC Sports. They'll help you navigate the world of digital marketing for your moto brand. This is the Moto Marketing Podcast. Presented by RacerX.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast. We've got a guest for you today that I've wanted to have on for some time, somebody I'm excited to finally get on the show, which we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, I want to tell you about RacerX's, I believe it is still the promotion they have going on, depending on when this comes out. You can always find out by going to racerxonline.com/moto marketing. The most recent promotion they had was a free pair of RacerX undies by Ethica, $56 value just for $30. Men's, women, youth sizes, it's all available. There's some awesome features that just came out in the most recent magazine, so be sure to subscribe or renew. You get all the print issues, you get access to the online issues, and it keeps, RacerX that we know and love, it keeps them rocking and rolling. A lot of people put a lot of time and effort into those features, so definitely support them. They support this show. Guys, we have an awesome interview today. It's that time of year. There's exciting news going on. There's silly season going on, and there's fresh new gear coming out, and everybody loves and anticipates to see what Fly is going to do. So the 2022 line just dropped. So what better time to have marketing manager for WPS and Fly on Max Steffens than today? So Max, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I've wanted to have you on for a while. Today, for those listening or watching, is the first time Max and I have actually met. But I feel like I know a good bit about you, Max, just because you've been a guest a few times on Pulp, and you're always an exciting guest, and you're on there with JT, and it's just you're one of the guests that it just makes for an entertaining episode when you're on. You've got some really good takes on the sport. You're obviously, I would assume, a fan of the sport. You've done a little bit of everything at Flying WPS, so was excited to have you on, man, and I really just want to kind of dive into your story and what led you to where you are today. You've got a really cool job that I know a lot of people would love to have, and a lot of people that want to get into the industry listen to this show. So let's kind of take it back to what initially got you into the sport. How did you get your first industry role, so to speak, in moto?
That's a long time ago. I'm going to have to dig deep. Let's see. So I started, I'm from Boise, Idaho, which is where we're based. I've lived here my whole life. Up until the point where I was a mechanic. So I actually started at a local shop here in town. I don't even know how long ago, a long time ago. But I started with them, and I was actually an engine builder and a assistant manager at that location. So basically just repairs on old bikes, fork seals, crap like that, which led to me meeting the first privateer that I worked for, which was Rob Floth, who's a local guy here in Boise, who's actually going to Loretta Lynn still in the plus 30 and plus 40 classes. I actually built his motor for Loretta's this year, like 2 weeks ago. So,
wow. You still spin wrenches then, huh?
Yeah, I still do a lot of mechanicking.
That's awesome.
I actually build a lot. I do a lot of restoration projects for like David Eller, who owns the Phoenix Racing Team.
Yeah.
I built 3 bikes for him.
Oh, wow.
Done some restoration projects for him and stuff. So, so I went from Racing Station, which was the name of the shop I worked at, to mechanicking for Rob. And then went with Rob for a year and a half, and then I ended up wrenching for Cole Siebler for 4 years, I think, which led me through Tamer, Kawasaki, the Wyvern Moto team. I was the crew chief and engine builder for that team for 2.5 years, or 2 years. And then I went from there to Butler Brothers, and I worked for Forrest for 2 or 3 full seasons with Cole. as well as Doug DeHaan and a couple other, ex-riders from back in the day. I even mechanic for JT for an off and on here and there when he needed help. His dad was always kind of his mechanic. So, but I helped him and Sean Skinner a few times. And then from there, I came home from mechanicking. I got married and worked at a local shop here again as a parts person. And then Terry called me in 2008, and I came on here as the pro race manager. So I managed all of our professional athletes at that time. I was in that position for about 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then they promoted me to race department manager. So then I managed all racing for our company. And then from there, a year ago, I got promoted to marketing and race department manager. So I manage all marketing platforms for Western Power Sports and Fly Racing. And then racing. And I also manage the entire race department. So I have tons of guys now in the race department. We've went from a one or two man show. We had one amateur, one pro, to now I have Jesse Dalton. I have like 4 guys that rotate around different things. And then I have a new amateur person that's actually starting at Loretta's for us. So yeah, it's and now I'm overseeing all of it. So it's a lot.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it's a good job. And I've been at Western Power Sports for 13 years now. I've done everything while doing the race department stuff back in the day. When I was originally started, I was a tech here as well, answering off-road phone calls for dealers because the racing wasn't as big back then when I started here. We were just kind of getting going. We had Shorty, then we had Trey, so it's kind of like we were just ramping up. I didn't have a plethora of athletes everywhere. So it was, I filled time with, I did purchasing. I was a brand manager for one of our in-house brands, G-Max helmets. I've done a lot here.
Yeah.
but by doing that, it's made me very knowledgeable as far as what our brands do and what our company does, because I've worked in so many facets of our company at Western Power Sports that now it allows me to, being now the marketing manager, when my team is building a new piece like promo or a new piece for display, we have to build part numbers and we have to go through vendors and we have to do all this stuff. I've done all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for me to help the transition for my team, as well as just knowing where our brands were to where our brands are now. Right. Fly from 2008 to 2022 is a massive jump.
Yeah.
We've done unbelievable things. Obviously, JT is out there. JT is the Fly Racing media relations manager. So he helps me with a lot of the media outlets and stuff. He's mostly focused on the sales side as well as the media side. So he spends a lot of time communicating with media on, things and fits and doing presentations and going to media outlets and being on the Pulp Show and being on your show and, doing everything that he can to constantly promote the brand and make people aware of the brand and the features and the benefits of the brand. So,
yeah,
we've made some massive strides as a company.
So you've been there through, Fly way back when wasn't the top brand that everybody desired to wear. And now, depending on what sport you're looking at, in BMX, like I've grown up racing BMX. I know Ray Hudson, he's helped me out over the years. Like that, when you sit, one of the biggest races of the year is at Rock Hill, North Carolina. And I remember sitting in the pits a couple years ago, looking and counting how many guys were in Fly. And it's like 9 out of 10 people that walk by you are wearing Fly. And then you get into Moto and more and more and more and more people are switching to that brand that might have been in other brands for years. I can't only imagine what that's like for when you guys weren't necessarily the most desired brand back in the day to now you are, if not one of the most desired brands. What was that like? I know there's a lot there, but what was that transition like from we were kind of just getting started and figuring out what worked and what didn't to now it's like, hey, we're the premier brand. We've got the premier helmet on the market. We've got all these things. What's that been like since 2008 to now?
Well, before me, the only championship we had, well, not even actually before me, because in the racing, it was kind of a shared when we got our second championship. But our first one was Brandon Jessamine, an East Coast championship. And then we won with J-Law, West Coast championship. And then from there, I was responsible with the team of people that we all helped select here. So I can't take all the credit by any means, but, we signed Trey, we signed Shorty. Shorty was with the brand when I started, but me and Shorty became really good friends over a long relationship. I used to talk to him about twice a week, but now it seems like once a month because he's always in some godforsaken country racing a dirt bike. So, but he's in Paris right now doing Dakar training. So, but Trey I talked to last week. Actually, I talked to Trey yesterday. So there's just a lot of, it's crazy to see what we've done. So to answer your question, when we were small and first starting, I remember getting in with Terry and Craig and going, okay, here's the guy we're going after, the guy, not guys, the guy, like, here's where we're going, and we'd go after Trey. And then we went after this and some we failed and some we won. Trey was our first 450 win ever as a company. We've had multiple successes in the 250 class, but Trey was our first 450 win. Then Shorty won in Seattle, and so that was his first 450 win. So we've had a lot of firsts with some of our athletes. And then we signed Zach, and, with Zach and the Rockstar team and everything we've done there, we've brought 5 championships home now with Zach, 4 or whatever. I think it's 4. But, to now we are a 450 motocross championship brand. We are a multiple time 250 Supercross and 250 outdoor championship brand. The only thing we don't have is a 450 Supercross championship as a brand. Yeah. Which hopefully we seal that up in the near future with any luck. But, we got to get a little bit of luck on our side as well. Seems like if there's a gorilla that's going to escape a zoo, it's going to tackle a fly rider most likely on the track. So that's awesome. It seems like we have the worst luck sometimes. And but at the same time, it's crazy to now be on the end of the phone calls where we used to be the brand that we were calling, and now we're the brand that people are calling. Yeah. So, telling people no that you never thought would ever call you ever is like kind of mind blowing in my position, and for even like when I talked to Terry, the vice president upstairs, and I talked to him about, like a lot of the rider stuff. Me and him are, part of the decision process of that. And, so I'll go talk to him and he's like, who's calling? Like,
what's that like? I mean, I think it's probably it's commonplace for you, but for someone like me, like, to think of being that person that's in that role, that it's almost like you get to be like the GM of a football team, to where you get to pick and choose your players. Is that exciting for you? Is that something that you enjoy, to where it's literally real life fantasy motocross? Like, you've got a certain amount of money, you determine which riders you want or you can have. Like, what is that like? Just from, clearly you're a fan of the sport still, so talk us through whatever you can on that process.
It's exciting, nerve-wracking as well, just because it is a group of us that make the decision. It used to be a bigger group, but now it's kind of like me, Terry, and then Craig sometimes, and then sometimes JT chimes in opinions as well, and then Ron. Like, we have a group of people, which it's nice for me because they've never put it solely on me. So if we do go out and win, it's a team decision. It's not a me decision. If we go out and suck, it's not a me decision. It's a team decision. Yeah. Which takes a lot of the burden off of me, because a lot of the time we will, as a group, pinpoint what we're going to do, and then I go to work and either get it done or don't get it done. Yeah. It is me that's doing 90% of the negotiation and all the talking to the agents and or athletes. And, I was at Washougal this weekend, and that was what I was doing, is talking to people and fact finding and seeing who's available and who's not available, and finding out how many rumors are true and how many rumors aren't true. And, silly season, as you mentioned, silly season is just that. Like, there's so many variations of what's actually going on. It's just who you talk to, so just knowing who to go find. But it is exciting. Like I said, it's exciting to be a part of a brand so long that you can see the ups and downs of, where we were to standing it down on the floor when Zach won the title, the first title, the West Coast title or East Coast title. I don't remember. I think it was East. Yeah, the East Coast title at Vegas. It was, when he crashed first corner, I'm like, it was over, in my mind. And then he got up and he started going, and I'm like, me and James Hansen, who used to be with Rockstar, we're sitting there talking to each other, and I'm like, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. And, it just builds and builds and builds and builds. And then it came down to that corner, and it was like, dude, I'm a fat kid. If I could have backflipped, I would have done it. I would have backflipped right there. Like, it was, going from,
that's cool,
oh my God, it's over, to holy crap, we're going to win.
Yeah.
So,
I'm 32. I mean, I became a fan of the sport 2001, 2002. I have some definite memories that stick out in my mind, but that and I wasn't at that race. I wish I was, but man, that is one of those that, like, if you're like, what are like the top 10 things you remember since you've been a fan? That pass and just that race in general was one of those things. I got to ask a question that I'm sure you've been asked 100 times, and I think you'd mentioned you were there during his time. What was it like to work with J Law? Were you were there when he was part of the team?
Yeah, I was here when we had Yamaha of Troy.
Yeah.
And he was never bad for me. I was really good friends with Chris McAvoy, who was the team manager at the time, as well as Keith Burns, who was one of the crew guys, and we had a good relationship with them. And they were honestly our first legit 250 team back then, so it was like we had a lot in them and they had a lot in us, and J-Law was the guy, but I never really had any issues with J-Law. Me and him, he was always picky on a couple little key pieces, but other than that, he was always cool to me. And at the time, I think it was, I want to say it was Ryan Morris, Tyler Bowers, J-Law, and I want to say somebody else, but I can't remember who.
Yeah.
Might have been Meddy or McFarland. Might have been McFarland. I don't remember, but I'd have to go look honestly up at the gear because it's been so long. But we have some of that stuff up in the attic up here. We have some of that stuff here where we kept it. But
man, I loved J Law. Like I'm always that guy that I love the Conor McGregors, the Floyd Mayweathers, the J Law, because I'm not that guy. I don't know why. I'm attracted to that type of a personality in sport, and I feel like we don't have the McGregor or the Mayweathers, or we don't have the J-Law in this sport right now like we used to. If J-Law, let's say Jet Lawrence was J-Law, there was that character coming up today. Do you everybody still talks about him today like he's like this legend that I don't think we really referred to him as that when he was in the sport. You think it's good or bad for the sport if there were to be a second coming of J-Law today? And would that be a brand that Fly would be like, man, we want nothing to do with? Or I feel like there's good and there's lots of bad that come along with a personality like that today, compared to somebody like Zach Osborne. He's the media's guy. Like he's just a media sweetheart, and he's good through and through. And then you got somebody that's edgy, but I think still brings good to the sport from a publicity standpoint in J-Law. What are your thoughts on if somebody like that were to come into the sport today with his personality?
I think, I guess two parts to that. I think we need it. I do. I really feel like somebody of that mentality and that charisma, I guess, as whatever word it would be. I think that helps when people, it gives the outside people that aren't in our sport something to draw to. I do feel like we have some good characters in our sport right now. Yeah. Zach is more probably on the little bit more subdued side, but if you get to know Zach, he's not. He's kind of a goofball. He's really outgoing, and but when he's there, I think a lot of people don't take into account that when they're at the track, it's a job. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard for some of these guys to come too far out of their bubble because there's a lot of money. They got, it's no different for me and you. Like if you don't get to record this show, you can reschedule. Like, for them, they only get that day. So it's like, they can make $150,000 or they can make nothing, so I think some of the time, I don't think the fans get a fair shake at who they are because they do have a job to do and they are under a lot of pressure. Some of them worse than others. I would say that AP is also probably on his way to being one of those individuals. He's pretty outgoing and kind of a goofball and the fans love him. Barsha is pretty decent at that as well. He's pretty good at, when it's not business time, trying to lighten up a bit. All of our guys are very outgoing and very, I don't want to say very outgoing, but some outgoing, and they're all really good for the sport. It's just I think we tend to partner with, because of the directive from, our owner and the brand that we tend to partner a little bit more on the subdued side. I honestly, not always on purpose. We do want to win races. That's what we're here for. But at the same time, we're not going to stray too far away from who we are as a brand. Yeah. Because that's not who we are, and that's not who we'll ever be. We will always be true and core to what we are. And we have those levels of things that we want to know that we go to bed at night doing the right thing. So that's probably I do feel the sport needs it. I just don't know, depending on which parameter that individual would be. If it goes as far as J-Law, I don't know that we would be a part of it again.
Yeah.
I honestly don't.
Yeah.
But like Jet or Hunter, either one of the Lawrence brothers, like they're outgoing, they're different, they're vibrant. Like they're not, for lack of a better word, they're not punks.
Right.
You know, they're just good kids having a good time. You know, so I would say that is definitely good for the sport. You know, as far as going to, because then you get the parents involved who are like, I don't want him, you know, following a different path. You know, like, you know, and I don't want to say J-Law was all that horrible, you know, because for me he wasn't. But at the same time, from the public eye, he was partying and doing a lot of things. Well, I think you'd be surprised that he wasn't doing nearly as much as what the public thought he was.
Right.
Or maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I honestly wasn't in that close of a tight of a circle with him. He could have been partying every night. I don't know.
Sure.
You know, so, but I definitely feel that the sport, to keep new people coming to our industry and coming to our sport, that type of vibrant individual is going to be a key to getting new people here. Because if it's always the same personalities and the same mentalities and the same interviews and the same everything, people are eventually just going to start fading away.
Somebody that I think's interesting that is a fly athlete is Jalik, and he's somebody that we haven't heard a lot from, but you know, when he had his win this season was at High Point, he's more interesting when he has the opportunity to be the media spotlight than I thought. One, we don't have a lot of black athletes in this sport, and I think that's awesome that he is at the pointy end of the pack, and he really doesn't care. Like, he's himself. And I remember in the press conference when he won, like, him and a friend of his were at dinner, and like they were goofing off in the background. It was different, and it was cool to see that type of flavor that I didn't really know was there with him, because he hasn't gotten that much time in the spotlight. So he's somebody that I hope as he gets older and more mature and he gets better results, that we get to see more of his personality, because that kind of woke me up, and he was very different than I thought he was going to be. And it's cool that he's a fly athlete, so hopefully you guys get a benefit from that as well in the future.
Yeah, Jalik, I honestly will be honest, and he would probably say the same thing. Me and him haven't always, I guess I don't want to say we haven't had a good relationship. We just haven't had much of a relationship up until probably in the last, 3 to 4 months, just because there was always so much going on at the team. Like, I knew him and I talked to him all the time, but it's not like we were like, I guess buddy all the time. You know, this last weekend at Washougal, he was joking around with me again. Like, he's a really good kid. He really is, and I do think he has a lot of potential, and his personality is great. He's so much fun under the truck, and you know, it's as I'm getting to know him more and more, him, Styles, and RJ, like, you get those three together, buckle up. Like,
yeah, no doubt.
It's a good time when you get all those guys under the truck, and you know, there's a lot of jaw jacking going on, but that whole team, the atmosphere is really good. You know, Scuba, the team manager, and everybody does a really good job at keeping it. You know, when it's business, it's business, but when it's time to, like, you know, slow down for a second, the vibe under the team is really cool. And Jalik is definitely one of the standouts as far as being, his personality is definitely something special.
Yeah. Hey, so big time of year for you guys right now. The 2022 launch just happened. We're recording this the week after Washougal. So you and JT have been on this just media tour, and we're getting you on now. And I've been wanting to have you on, and I was like, well, now's a good time. Talk to me about you guys have some really cool things that are happening for 2022. I think a new helmet, just the gear is just insane looking this year. I love it. Talk to me about some of the highlights of the 2022 launch that you want people to know about.
Oh, let's see. Most of the fit on all the gear can stay consistent this year. We didn't change any panels or anything. A lot of new colorways, a lot of new graphics. The one big new piece that I think that a lot of people will be excited is the Formula CP, which is the poly helmet of the Formula. So we have the 689 model, and then I believe the CC's 489. 689 is a full 12K carbon shell, all the cone head technology, Rheon technology, everything in there. The CC is same helmet, different shell. It's carbon poly, or carbon composite, sorry. And then the new one is the CP, which is the poly helmet. So all the same technology of Rheon. It doesn't have the cone head EPS, which is the major difference. Still dual stage EPS, still, a lot of the features, but it brings the technology that we've spent so much time and so much money developing to keep people safe. It brings it down to an affordable level for the families that can't afford $500 for a helmet. It brings it down into that range. And I honestly don't remember the price off the top of my head. I want to say it's $59 or something in that range, but I don't have it in front of me.
So much more
prepared, but I don't.
No, that's all right. So I mean, it's still a lot of great safety technology, but I mean, at a price to where you should start to be able to see more people in those, because it's more affordable. Was that just a decision like that? Was that in the plans from the time that the CC was being developed? Hey, a few years down the road, we want to develop this, or was it something that just requests from consumers that you guys saw a need to develop the CP model as well?
I think a little bit of both. It was in the plan because we needed to build a helmet in that price point that kind of targets that demographic that can't spend $600 on a helmet or can't spend $500 on a helmet. Sorry, $700 on a helmet. And we needed to bring the safety. The whole goal is that we want to keep everybody safe. We want to do everything we can every day to make sure everybody's safe. And we're honestly, all of our competitors, everybody, we're pushing each other every year to get better and better and make everybody safer. But a lot of it was price point. We needed to be able to be in that market, as well as bring that safety down to the parents that have 3 kids that all race, mom and dad race. It's expensive when you're spending $689 on a helmet or $489 on a helmet. It's tough to outfit 5 people. So it's a little bit of both, though. The consumer definitely needed the helmet as well as we needed it for price point.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things when you guys have a gear launch is just what are the colorways going to be, and how are decisions like that made? Like I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia, where Racer X is at. Blue and gold is our university's color. You guys have almost an identical to our university, a blue and gold color wave, and I'm like, man, that's sick. So that's like my piece that I'm like, I got to get that. How is it the same thing as like, Park and Madison, like fashion, like there's collars that are hot. And so, like there was the high vis at one point that was hot. Like how do you guys make these decisions on where we're going to go one year to the next with colorways and patterns and things like that?
Well, with us, we're so far ahead. Sometimes it's hard to forecast trends, so the design team spends a lot of time looking at trends. They go to different shows, look at things. Design team brings, I couldn't even tell you how many designs in each line, tons and tons of them. We all vote them down to an acceptable range.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it is the sales team, which JT is obviously involved in that sales team, of the fly room. Basically, we call it the fly room here upstairs. But they basically then go to work and dialing in colors and dialing in things. And then we'll vote again and probably eliminate 1 or 2 more. And it's a lengthy process. I honestly don't know a time frame, but I bet it takes us, I don't know, a few months probably to dial it down. But I mean, we're well into 23 product already, if not done. We're well in.
That's cool.
But that's how far we have to be. I mean, we're bringing in lots and lots of gear, lots and lots of gloves. Like it takes a long time, and sometimes the trends don't necessarily transition from year to year. We'll be working on it now, and what's looking to trend, it might not. And sometimes, in some people's eyes, we miss the mark, and some people's eyes, we hit the mark. The gear is unfortunately such a personal preference anymore. Our fit and function will always be the priority as well as graphic, but fit and function and affordability is where, and durability, is a huge portion of our game every day. We want to be the best looking stuff, but sometimes, like I said, it's kind of in the eye of the beholder at that moment. Our new stuff looks great. The new light hydrogen and the new Evo, both a little more subtle graphic for us this year, which is, I think, fine. I love the stuff that RJ was wearing in the first Moto, the red and white light hydrogen. It's actually the light gear now. It's probably one of our coolest colorways. We have red, white, and blue. The Evo, like you said, we have the West Virginia colorway, navy and gold. So, and all of it looks great. So, but I'm obviously biased. I love our stuff, and I will be the first to admit that a few years ago we've definitely missed before.
Yeah.
And some people have hated it and tore us apart. We still sold a lot of gear. So, we respect everybody's opinion, and we try so hard to hit the mark every year, but sometimes you just don't.
Yeah.
But this year I feel like I feel like the stuff is great. A lot of good feedback from the riders, a lot of good feedback from the media like yourself, a lot of great feedback from dealers. dealers are loving it. And, this is where I probably give a lot of kudos to JT and the team, JT and Cole and Cam and those guys upstairs that do all the fly line is, JT's been on the road for a while doing this. He's went and, traveled the week of Southwick. We went and did a media tour before the launch, me and him, and then he's done even more, outside of what I've done. He's tirelessly pushing the Fly brand every day to media and anybody he can, so he's definitely a tremendous part of what goes on there. So it's but yeah, it's a collective group of pretty much anybody. I mean, I'm trying to think of how many people are involved, but it's a lot. Like a lot of people get to come in and vote. They send out a PDF and we all get to look at all the lines, and then we bring it down, and then we go into a room and we all vote, and then they eliminate, the back 40, we'll call it, and then this 12 gets to move forward, and then we break that down again, and hey, make that blue gray. And it's a lengthy process, but that's because we do have so many walks of life that work at Western Power Sports. We have very young moto guys, we have some mid-aged moto guys, we have old moto guys. Everybody here, I would say a good majority of this office rides or has ridden. There's a lot of people here, and we bring in everybody from a couple warehouse guys that moto, we bring in inside sales guys, the Fly team, some of the older guys that don't ride but have an opinion or fashionable, whatever. And we try to get so much of the spectrum. It's a long process, but like I said, I'm not 100% sure that we're not almost done with 2023.
That's wild. That's great. It's cool to hear kind of what actually happens, because I don't think people realize, just the normal fan doesn't realize how far ahead of the curve you guys are, or far ahead of the schedule you guys are with that stuff. Last question I have, and I meant to ask it earlier and I almost forgot. So I feel like what sells in this sport, not just this sport, but pretty much any industry, has changed over the years, to where back in the day it was really, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, whatever. It was the athletes, and then you had traditional advertising and things like that. Today, especially in this sport, and in my opinion, from what I can see, one of your all's most powerful, if not the most powerful marketing tool is what Steve has built with Pulp MX.
You can't tell him that.
No, I can't tell him. And look, I like Steve. I know Steve a little bit, not as well as you. I have a cell phone.
He's going to hear that. He's going to hear this.
He won't listen to this show. That's why I'm actually bringing it up. But
we don't have helmets big enough.
And it's funny because he's got that personality to where he knows he's a big deal now, but I don't think it hasn't changed his personality a ton. But in all seriousness, like what he has built, whether he meant for it to be as powerful as it is or not, like he has made, in my opinion, the podcast. It's the reason there are so many shows. And he's made podcasting probably one of the most effective and powerful marketing tools, whether it's his show or DMXS or other shows that are out there. Do you guys see a noticeable difference to where if you're like, you know what, we had a falling out with Steve, we're done with him tomorrow, do you think that would affect the reach and performance of Fly? Because there's really no other brand. I know he does some stuff with FXR, but really you guys are like the name on his show, and JT's got such a good relationship with him. You've been on there. Do you think that has as powerful as an effective, if not more, than say some of the riders that are winning and doing well compared to 2008 or 10 or whatever it is?
So they give me crap about being too cautious on answering stuff like this all the time, because my role here, obviously I have to be very delicate with some of the answers. But
I understand.
Steve, first of all, a lot of podcasts do a lot for us. We have a lot of great partners, yourself included, that we've partnered with on several media channels and outlets. Mathis is very impactful. He does a very good job for us. Does it affect more than an athlete? I think to some extent, depending on the athlete, yes. We have some very good athletes that are very active on social, very active with even Mathis's show. It's kind of full circle, because even the ones that I'm like thinking, they're on his show a lot of the time too. So It's like, to answer the question, yes, he does a great job. He does reach a demographic that I don't know that we always reach. We reach probably a good percentage of it. Do we reach all of it? Probably not.
Yeah.
I'm still relatively new to the marketing role. So this is my, I'm a year in, I'm learning every day. It's not like I have, a huge background in marketing minus dirt bike riders, but at the same time, I'm very knowledgeable of our company and very knowledgeable of our industry. So I think that's what's helped me be successful where I am now. he is very good at what he does. And the show last night, I listened again. I listen all the time. Zach and Phil were both on, and I, obviously Zacho being on, I wanted to hear what he had to say. And, with Phil being on, it's always entertainment. So I wanted to listen to Phil. So, yeah. But, and then, Kiefer being there and Matt and JT being there, it's, he has definitely done one hell of a job building up the Pulp MX empire. We use him for the radio show in the pits. And I definitely think that him and JT and Weege have a definite draw that we wouldn't get without that group, it's hard to measure the impact, to be honest, but he does have analytics that prove that he is successful. And, he is definitely one of our best media outlets. He does a great job for us. And he's also Mathis. He's a pain in the butt sometimes, but
it's the person,
I tell him that to his face. So, but yeah, this weekend, I hung out with him and JT again at Washougal. So it's, but yes, I don't know how I would technically answer that question. Like if I could tell you that the impact is the same,
sure,
because I do feel like the athlete might impact the younger demographic more than Mathis.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, it does. It's a great answer. I mean, I think I guess really the reason I asked that question isn't so much around Steve. Steve just has the biggest show in the sport, but it's interesting the place that podcasting has. I mean, look what Racer X has done with this show and all the shows they have. It's because they know the importance of it, and it's where, for whatever reason, this sport, that's one of our favorite. The fans of this sport's one of our favorite ways to consume media is, yes, we love reading the Racer X's of the world, but we also love listening. It's our ESPN, all these different shows. So I think it's just interesting where and I have a small show compared to some of these others, but just where the podcast has a role in marketing today compared to 5-10 years ago. It's interesting to me. And then at the top of that is Steve's show.
And if you take yourself and like Swap Moto Live and all these different versions, like I said, I think that some of the podcasts target a little different demographic than the athlete. Just because I think some of the younger kids, they're probably not even buying product yet. Their moms and dads are buying product.
Yeah.
Which most likely the podcast demographic hits. But I think the younger kids still see I don't even know what range, like the 9 to 16-year-old might see the guy winning on the podium. They want to buy that product because that's their favorite guy. But mom and dad listen to the podcast that 100%. Talks about that, So it's like, I think it's kind of, podcasts are very successful. I mean, they're doing a great job. And I would say that I don't even know what the percentage is, but a big portion of Moto listens to them. Like I talk to people all the time that like, oh, I listened to this podcast when I was driving over here. Oh, did you listen to this podcast? Oh, did you listen to Rogan's podcast? Like there's so many podcasts now, in industry, not in industry. I don't know anybody that I don't know that doesn't listen to podcasts.
Yeah,
it's so it's like,
well, I mean, like guys like yourself, like, have you ever been stopped and recognized because of being on one of these shows, being on Pulp or something like that? Like,
Pulp.
Yeah, like to me that's what blows me away. Like the power of these shows. Like you got, like Randy Richardson is literally a celebrity in this sport. Which shout out to Michelin Tires, they support this show. Randy's a celebrity in this sport. He's hilarious, but it's because of his involvement and guest appearances on these shows. Like the power of these shows just blow my mind. I mean, what it's done for privateers, guys like Alex Ray, he's on Swap Show, he's on Pulp. Like if it weren't for the podcast as a platform, a lot of these guys would be no names, and regular industry professionals like you, people recognize, like people, I'm literally a nobody. I own a marketing company, and I have people that come up to me at GNCC races and motocross races that know who I am because of a podcast. It blows my mind. So yeah, it is crazy. The reach and the impressions that you can get from just a simple audio show that really anybody can produce.
Yeah, JT and I were talking about that this weekend because I had probably 4 people at Washougal come up and go, "Hey man, heard you on the Pulp Show, great job." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's crazy to me that that's now I'm recognized as being on that show sometimes. So it's like it's super cool though to be at least known, for that reason, Sure. So it's almost a little bit starstruck that people even care that much, to be honest. But
it's cool.
It's cool because I've been in this industry a long time, and, you know, meeting people like yourself, you know, it's like Mathis. When I first met Mathis, I don't even know how many years ago now. He's a great friend, you know, and I've met so many people through mechanicking and what I do now. And, you know, not being at the races as much anymore is a little harder for me because most of my family is at the races. You know, I know so many people and so many things through podcasts and, you know, things like that, you know, it's, they're definitely impactful. And like I said, it's just kind of, I think the way I explained it is probably the best way I would see how it reacts, because I do feel like some of the younger kids still do look up to the athletes, the Sextons and the Zaccos that win, you know, and then the parents might be like, well, I like the fly stuff, or I like this stuff, but I heard about the fly stuff on this podcast, so let's go look at that at our dealer, you know?
Yeah,
so
no doubt.
And then that directs the kid to hopefully pick our stuff as they walk into the store because mom and dad have done research and they're like, oh, well, there's that helmet. And then the kid's like, oh, I love that one. And then that hopefully makes the customer for life.
Yeah.
So,
man, it's interesting. You've got, for somebody that wants to be in the sport, someone like you has got the dream job as far as you get inside looks at gear before it's launched, and you get to work with the athletes that people are fans of. It's you've been in it for so long that I know I lose touch of how cool of a job I have. I can only imagine someone like you that you've been in it for so long, you probably lose touch of. There's a lot of people that would love to have a job like you have, and that's why we have people like you on the show, man, because it's cool to hear about your story, and I didn't know that you went from just a mechanic at a dealership to now you're working with the premier brand in the sport with the premier athletes in the sport. So it's an inspiring story that I know a lot of people are going to enjoy, and man, I really appreciate you coming on. And again, for those listening, it's the first time Max and I have had a chance to talk, and I hope it's not the last. And I'm a Fly customer. I've been one for a long time. I love the products, and I think it's cool what you guys continue to do year after year. And yeah, I appreciate you being on with us today.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity. And yeah, it's I definitely have been blessed. I've had a great career, and I love what I do. You know, it is hard sometimes. I do have the days, just like you said, where it's like, man, I just can't, you know. But at the same time, it is, you know, my passion. I've been doing this a long time. I love Moto. I love everything about Moto. You know, we support quads, watercraft, bicycle. You know, our athlete Bernard Kerr just won Hardline this weekend. You know, so that's another huge step for fly racing, the mountain bike line, you know. So it's, you know, there's just so many things we're involved in, and we really are having, you know, we're having great success, and we're doing really well. And we have a lot of great people here at the company that make us better every day. So it's, yeah, I'm excited, and hopefully we get to talk again soon. And once again, I appreciate the opportunity and love doing this stuff. I get nervous sometimes because I'm not as great a speaker as JT sometimes in front of these people because he's done so many, but it's, the more and more I do, the more and more comfortable I'm getting. So,
yeah, man, you're a pro now. If you've been on pulp for 3 hours straight numerous times, you're you're a seasoned vet, man. Man, awesome. I appreciate having you on, and yeah, we'll absolutely be in touch, and hopefully we get to see each other at the races here soon. And Supercross obviously is going to look a lot more normal next year. So if we don't see it at the outdoors, maybe we'll see it at one of those. And yeah, we'll get this thing out. Probably going to put this out this week actually, just because it's the timeliness of it with the launch. So we'll be sure to send it over to you. And yeah, man, I enjoyed having you on.
All right, thanks again, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right, awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Moto Marketing Podcast. If your goal is to get real, measurable results from your marketing that will grow your company revenue, then check out how Impact Media can get the same results that they have for Moto's most iconic brands by visiting thinkimpact.com. That's THINKIMPAKT.com. Have a marketing question that you want answered on the show? Send your questions to questions@motomarketingpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast.